This is a tutorial for the Seam Details tool you can find in my Cloth Sewing Toolbox, available on Gumroad and BlenderMarket. It allows to add fully procedural seams between two sets of faces directed by one vertex group for each side to add really nice details from a library of preset seam profiles on which you can also add stitches and bonding, and it also creates some custom shading data to add really nice and intricate details very easily. So once you've added the toolbox to the file path of your asset browser, I recommend to use the link import method so that you can more easily update all the features and the asset pack on all your files when I release new versions. And from here you can just drag your seam details modifier on top of your mesh. So the first step is to select the two edges we want to join with the seam. What we need to keep in mind is that the tool is designed to replace two adjacent edges with a seam. So that means that this tool, as of now, wouldn't be suited to join those two edges together with a seam. What it is designed to do is create a visually pleasing seam around an edge that has been ripped, like this for example, which you can do by pressing V on your keyboard. And the vertices of the two edges need to be really close to each other, so that the tool can correctly estimate needs to be joined to which other vertex. In some cases, the tool can still work with edges that have a different vertex count on one side from the other, which will be the case right here, but generally you want the topology on each side to be about the same. So here, because I ripped the vertices, the two edges are overlapping, which may make it a bit hard to properly select the two edges. So what we can do is move on to the shading tab, so that way we can also make sure that the UV are properly set up. So in my case, it is not properly set up right now, because the two edges are too close to each other in the UV space, and I actually want them to be a bit farther away so the tool can properly compute everything. So I could just move one side over like this, or just recompute the UV unwrapping by pressing U and unwrap. So this right here is a nice UV map for the tool, because the deformation is minimal. There are no overlaps between UV islands, and they are not placed too close to each other. And now to make the selection of the two edges easier, you can enable the UV sync selection with the two arrows on the top left, which will sync the selection of the edges you do on the UV space with the edges on the workspace. So that way you can just alt-click one side to add it to a vertex group, which I will call side A, and the other, which I will call side B, like so. So we can check if it is set up properly, and it seems to be the case. Another method to cut the mesh and select the two sides for the tool is to use the cut selection tool I presented in the previous tutorial, so I will not go over this in this video. So now that all my selections have been made, I can fill in my vertex group on the side A and side B inputs, and for this I would recommend to toggle the visibility off for now, just until you have set up the two sides, so the tool doesn't try to compute the seam when only one of the input has been set up. Now I can toggle the visibility again. Next, what you can do right away is to select the proper UV map if you are not using the default Blender UV map name, which is just UV map. So for example, if you are using a mesh from Houdini or Clothsewing to use another UV map, which you can check under the UV maps right here, under the object data properties. Next, we also need to tell the tool what is the scale correspondence between the workspace version of our mesh and the version in the UV space. So for example, right now, my mesh is measuring about 20 centimeters wide, but its UV unwrapped version is about 1 unit wide. So here I can just set 0.2 for 20 cm divided by 1, which is the scale correspondence between the UV space and workspace scale. And now that this has been set up, let's talk about the other parameters. The first one I skipped earlier is apply scale. This is a way I implemented right into the modifier to do the same thing as what you would do if you press Ctrl A and apply the scale. So that will create right inside the modifier an equivalent of the uniform scale you can apply to your object. This is especially useful if you are using aluminum caches from other softwares, where you might need to rescale your object, but you can't apply the scale because the animation will be overridden by this. Now the next 6 parameters are the same you can find in the display selection tool, which I presented in the tutorial right before this one, and this is basically because the way this seam detail tool works is that to create a seam, such as the one you can see right here, I actually take the two vertices, move them aside, and add back the geometry to create the seam. And to do this, I am using inside this modifier this exact display selection tool. But basically, for a few explanations that are suited for this tool, the blur iteration and weight are especially useful if the width of the seam is too big and it creates overlapping faces on the side, Then you can add some blur to the displace operation to move all the faces on the side a bit further away to leave enough room for the seam. So as you can see right here, I added 4 blur iteration and a blur weight of 1, and you can actually see that this and this whole edge loops are being moved to the side to leave more room for the seam. So here I'm just going back to the default value. And let's talk about the next parameter after the displace mode, which is precision step. So this is the way to fix the issue I talked about earlier if the topology on the two sides doesn't match. So for example, if I add another edge loop on this side, here it creates some weird lines on the side, issues in some cases, and this is because this point is just trying to reach this point, which is the closest to its position. What we can do is increase the precision step, and this will actually subdivide the curve on the other side. And now that this curve has been subdivided, one point has been added here, and this point now has a neighbor to try to join. And here there are some cases, which I will show on the screen, in which you add a seam modifier after other seam modifier, and this is really useful if I created another seam right here. But the precision steps might need to be around 2, 3, or 4 at this point. And now let's get to all the settings to change the visual appearance of the seam itself. So those are all contained into the seam settings panel, and first you can select the seam profile type from a library of 4 presets for now, or you can also add your custom profile curve, which I will show you how to set up later. So by default, the seam profile type is set to an SSF butt seam tape. So we have the butt seamed on the two sides and a taping added on the side, but by default we also have a really simple lap seam, a more interesting French seam, which might be a bit too thick, so I'm going to lower its thickness, a sleeve set, which has 2 ends on either side, and now we are back to the seam tape. The next settings are really the same as you can find in the Edge Details tool to change the shape of the hem. So the first is seam profile resampling, and this is just a way to change the resolution of the extruded part of the seam. So if you set it to 0, it will be really low and just the original resolution of the curve which is generating this profile, but you can basically set any value you want, depending on the level of detail you need and the performances. Next we have the curve reverse threshold, and this is just a value which is used under the hood to properly determine all the direction in which we need to do the extrusions. And this is because when you are inputting the side A and side B vertex groups, I am actually converting them to curves inside the modifier, and the way Blender works is that the direction of the curve might not always be consistent. But for the tool to be working properly, I need the two curves on either side to be oriented in the same direction, and this is just a really small value by which I am moving around the curve and checking if it is still inside the mesh or not in order to properly change its direction. So you might not have to tweak this value, but if the result is not looking as expected and some things are flipped, it might be worth playing around. Next we have the dimensions settings of the seam, so you can of course change its width or its thickness. And the two last settings are a way to add some fillets on the side, because under the hood, the profile curves which are generating the seam are just straight curves. So for example, the curve which is generating this seam would look like this, but we can add some fillets before generating the profiles, and those are the corresponding settings. So we can change the resolution, so with 0 we don't have any fillet, and you can of course also change the radius of the fillets. The next panel, which is also quite the same as the one you can find in the Edge Detail tool, is the pinch settings panel, which enables with a few sliders to change the shape of the seam. So basically I provide a level of subdivision to add more or less sharp pinch to the shape, and then 5 pinch values which are distributed along the seam. So we have the pinch start on the A side, the pinch at the middle, and the pinch start on the B side, and also the pinch at the fourth of the distance on the A side, and the same on the B side. So here I can add a little bit of pre-subdivision because the original curve doesn't have enough points to be moved around, and then I can really easily edit the shape of everything. I might need a bit more subdivision, but as you can see, this can really easily add more control to the shape of the seam without having to work with a custom profile at this point. The next panel contains the stitch settings if you want to add some stitches right into this modifier. So all the settings are really the same as you can find in the Stitch Detail tool, which I already talked about in another tutorial, so I won't go over this again. but it is nice to have all the settings in a single tool. Next, if needed, we can also add some bonding, and this is just a simple piece of fabric you can add on top of everything. So here I can make it look nice by maybe using a simple lap seam. I will just remove all the pinching, and now I have a bonding strip on top of my seam, for which I can change the normal offset and of course its thickness. And here by default it doesn't have any material, so you can also set a material just for this new piece of fabric in this panel. And now the final panel before the output attributes is just a simple slider, which is still an experimental feature, to animate in and out the creation of the seam. So this might not look really nice, but it is what I used in the demo video of the asset pack. And finally, we have a bunch of output attributes, which are again really the same as the one you can find in the Edge Detail tool, but let's quickly have a look at them anyway. Let's just change to the butt seam tape, so you can also have some floating geometry, which is right here. And let's move on to the shading tab. Here I'm just creating a simple new material, so we can have a look at all of the attributes. The first one, output the UV map with the added information of the UV coordinates for the points that have been extruded by the tool to create the seam. So we can have a look at them by creating a new image texture color grid. And as you can see, the tool has created some new data for the parts of the seam that have been extruded. And also, I skipped over it earlier, but you can change the UV extrusion mode from extend to mirror, so that the parts that will be extruded by the tool can reuse the UV coordinates that already exist on the mesh instead of creating new ones. Next we have the UV seams data, and this is also the same as we can find in some other tools of the asset pack, and this basically creates a custom UV map which is flowing all along the selection of our edge, which will allow to add some precise shading to everything. So here the main thing we can have a look at is that the X coordinates of this UV map stores for each point of the mesh the relative position to the closest point of our edge selection, depending on the position along the selection. So from 0 on one side to 1 on the other. Then on the Y coordinates it's about the same but in a perpendicular direction, so we store the distance away from the object. But this only works perpendicularly to our selection, even when we are far from our selection, as you can see right here. So that's why we also have the Z value, which stores the distance from the edge in this direction. So that means that you can use the X and Y components as a custom UV map to drive, for example, a noise texture, which can be used to create seam puckering and so on, for which I also have a tool in this asset pack, which I will go into in another video. And then if we take the Y and Z components, take the length of this vector, put this into a color ramp, we can actually have a proximity to our selection in a really clean way. And this stores way more data than just a gradient made from the vertex weight of the selection. Now the next attributes are quite easy to understand. We have the extruded geometry, which is a boolean field set to true for all the parts of the mesh that have been extruded. We also have the same for the detached geometry, so this is geometry that have been created but is detached from the base mesh, as is the case with this strip of fabric right here. Now we also have attributes for the original selection of each side, and the new leading edge after the extrusion of everything. So we have this for both side A and side B. Then we have a processed island attributes, which is just a boolean field set to true for all the mesh islands which have been extruded. So if I duplicate a few faces to create a new mesh island, we see that this is false when we don't have any vertex group selection. And the two next boolean fields are a one for the stitches you can create in the stitch settings panel, and the same for the bonding, which is just set to true for the geometry created using the two panels right here. And finally, let's see how to create a custom profile curve for the seams. So again, this is generally the same principle as creating the profile curve for the edge details, but instead of having one or more curves, we at least need to have two curves for either sides. So let's add a new curve of type Bezier and delete everything. Now the only thing we need to keep in mind is that everything needs to be oriented positively along the y-axis with the up direction along the z-axis. So everything needs to have a scale of 0 along the x-axis, and we also need to check the orientation of the curve. So let's create a first profile curve. Here I will be using the curve pen and just click at some points because the tool already adds the fillets. So on one side I will have this curve, now I'll be clicking on the side to create the second curve, and on the other side I will have this curve. Now that you have created your curve, you need to have a look at its orientation. So for this you can go to the curve edit mode overlays and enable the handles and increase a bit their scale. So if you can picture that your seam will be extruded on one side into this direction and on the other side into this direction, we also need to make sure that the orientation of the curve is correct. So right now the second curve I drew is oriented into the right direction, so toward the middle of the seam, but the first one isn't. So I can just select it, press L, and under segment I can hit switch direction. So now it's also facing into the right direction. And then the first curve you will draw will have an index of 0, and this will be used to draw on the A side, and the second one will have an index of 1, and it will be used to draw the seam on the B side. Any other curve you will add after this will be created as a floating geometry, for which you can have any number of them. Another thing is that for it to work better on some cases, you need at least 3 points to create a seam profile for the first side A and side B. For the floating geometry you can do about anything you want, but for the other points, the first one will kind of be used to show the direction of the seam, and it is just the next point that will be extruded. So the first will always be deleted and anything else will be extruded. So here, if I subdivide this selection, the part of the seam that will be extruded is this segment right here. And from there, I can add some more points and we'll be able to see them. Now let's test this out on our geometry. Select your profile curve, and with a bit of resampling, we indeed have our seam looking just like we want. And to make sure you are creating proper profile curves, I would recommend to start from the curve that are in the asset pack, import them into your file and play around with them to create your own. So in this demo, the seam I created is just straight flat, but everything can also work with any angle between the two different sides, whether it is pinched in one direction or the other, as you can see in this other demo file. And of course, because a bunch of attributes are computed in UV space, everything is stable, even if your mesh is deforming, with the cloth simulation, alembic cache or anything else before this modifier. And this is it for this tool. If you still have any other question about this tool or the asset pack, make sure to leave them in the comments so I can improve the documentation and the asset pack in the future. Thank you so much for watching and see you next time.